describe in an anthropomorphistic way intent inside the universe. It's really
that's
just
the goal of evolution, or that's the way progression goes in terms of evolutionary trajectories. These very loaded terms.
Oh, and I mean, when Richard Dawkins used the term, the selfish gene, that the genes, we're not in a way the carriers of genes, but genes are actually riding us in a way, and they use us, their expression
as machines
to replicate themselves, because they just only desire to replicate themselves, and then to explain kind of family bonds, but based on the desire of genes to replicate. So, for example, you'll show more kindness to your brother and sister, or you'll help them because your brother and sister have similar genes to yourselves, and you want to make those genes replicate. They start to explain reality by intent, an intent that they rejected when they rejected God, but then they bring intentionality back into it. But instead of it being the creator intending things, it's the universe itself intending things. Now, of course, they would say, well, we don't really believe the universe actually has desires and so on, but they can't stop their fitra from basically misattributing intention, desire, activity with a purpose to what is in essence inanimate or even animate but mindless things according to their worldview. So this is the thing I pointed out, that who says it's imperfect? The replication of DNA. Right? Without slight mutations occurring and going past the kind of, say, error correction process that occurs, we wouldn't have adaptation. Of course, and they might say, well, why can't God create a universe where nothing changes, and that you have a perfect, let's say, biosphere where everything is exactly the same as it was, and it just replicates itself, almost clone-like, what have you.
Well, it wouldn't need to replicate; it live forever. Organisms could live forever.
Yeah, indeed. And here's the thing, which is that, well, God made the universe unlike Him. God doesn't change, but He made things which do change. We change, and we have to change, and change is part of everything that in a way glorifies Him. Or so to cite that, well, why is there change? And that's what they're arguing is, why is there change? It's like, well, if things didn't change, you'd say, well, that was God then. Because if it doesn't change, then it must mean that it is eternal, infinite, unlimited. Then it doesn't change. So this is what, in essence, the argument was why is there imperfection? So it's not imperfection; it's just change. And who's to say? And from our perspective, anyway, God intends all change to occur, as it does. And it's not. And then they're trying to argue that, well, maybe, and they kind of play upon, I think, some of the ignorance of the audience about how this kind of works, where they say, well, there's mutation and it occurs and it causes trouble. It can cause cancer cells. It can cause kind of defective attributes to occur, deformities, or it can switch off useful attributes and a whole bunch of things when it comes to epigenetics and things like that. But here's the thing. What they don't realize is that if there was a form of life which basically couldn't even last a second, let's say, and like a species just came into existence and then died within, not a second, but within one generation, and then that was it. And you could show that was the intent of God, was to create a species that had longevity, then you could make an argument. But if you look at how God intended life to exist, is it has a lot of error correction facility for mutations and a lot of permissibility for mutations. So, for example, amongst human beings, our kids will be slightly different to ourselves. Some might be spitting images, but most of them won't be, and will be slightly different. And that difference allows recognition, for example. As well, some adaptations allow better adaptation to the environment, so you can survive over time. It's not in every single case, but for every single individual. But life as an aggregate survives. And changes and develops, and as everything in this universe obviously is in constant change. So there's a lot of kind of, you could say, levels to this discussion. But ultimately, I was pointing out at the atheist that they had committed the crime of attributing intentionality to a mindless process and anthropomorphizing it and declaring it perfect or imperfect. So based on what criteria? What is perfection? What is imperfection?
I mean, all types of design is based upon a specification. So the analogy, another way of thinking about it is, me and you walk past an old building, say in Athens, and this building is crumbling. And I say this is bad design. You say this is not bad design. my background assumption is this building was designed to last 500 years and we're walking past after 600 years. No, we're walking past after 400 years. So it's bad design. It's not fit for purpose. Your background assumption could be it was designed for 500 years, but we're walking past after 2,000 years. So it's fit for purpose. So when they say this is bad or this is good, they not only are making that, they're bringing in language that they shouldn't, about intent, they also are assuming a standard. And what's interesting is that in the Quran, one of the examples which atheists sometimes use against God is barrenness of women. Yet in the Quran, God says that whoever he wills, he gives males or females or both males and females, and whoever he wills, he makes barren. So being barren from an Islamic paradigm is not bad design, because this life is not, we're not here to have a big party, cosmic party, and live forever and be happy and have bulletproof skin and no cancer and just live for thousands of years. No, God's intention is, like you said, a particular intention. So if they are going to make that argument, then they have to firstly explain why they're using the word intent. Two, if they're going to say this is bad design, then they have to show us proof, like you said, that this is what God intended and this is not what's in reality. Therefore, you can say it's bad design. If you can't do that, then you're basically using terms that you can't justify.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kind of stumps many unsuspecting theists when they engage atheists, is that, see, the atheist will use an assumption about a concept of God. They say, well, your God intended this universe to be a paradise, and it's not. Like, wait a second. Who said that the creator intended this universe to be, and by paradise, presumably a place where nothing dies, nothing suffers, there is no such thing as pain, and people live forever and in the same shape and form, or whatever, let's just say, in a state of pure bliss or contentment, or their appetite's fully satisfied. The question is, firstly, where'd you get that from? What would be God's intent of creating a paradise off the bat anyway? Right? And it doesn't fit. And so when they make you accept the theory that they've pushed on you, then they can then show how the universe contradicts that straw man. In essence, they've made a straw man concept of your belief in theism, and then they refute it. And look, you see, theism doesn't make sense. Say, wait a second. God made everything as a worship and glorification of Him. Things live, die. Things kind of experience situations they can't get out of, even if they wanted to. Things, they exist for a duration of time. Different things happen to different kind of objects or things in this universe. All this is the diametric opposite of God. And this shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make things which are different from Him, and they glorify Him because they are different from Him, because only He is eternal, unlimited, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And
if you want to think about even more kind of, you could say, deeply, I often find that what, and this is actually in the Quran about what's greater, basically, one that can create and one that can't create. Yeah, what's greater? A God that can create, a God who is infinite and perfect and so on, but can also create the existence of the quote unquote the imperfect, the finite, the limited, the changing, the limited duration, or a God that can only be perfect and infinite and can't create anything else that's not Him. Which is greater? You see, would be the format. And this is the beautiful argument in the Quran, which is that our what you call imperfection and what I call our finitude, our limitedness, is a glorification.
I mean, there is no
God.
Imperfection if you think of it from that perspective, because everything is fit for purpose.
Exactly.
So when a person uses the term imperfect, they basically are assuming a specification, a design specification, and then they're challenging reality based upon that. So all we have to do is say, where did you get that from?
Well, basically, it's what we call an equivocation fallacy, right?
Yeah.
So the term perfect can mean something is complete and self-sufficient, let's just say, or perfect can mean that it has it's doing what it's intended, or it has reached completeness. Right?
Yeah, so from our perspective, everything's perfect.
Yeah. But what the atheists will do, they'll say, well, everything is limited and not self-sufficient.
It's
imperfect. And then God creates imperfection. Therefore, God is not perfect.
Yeah,
he's not a perfect creator.
Yeah.
So it's an equivocation fallacy, because the word perfect has two meanings. So for clarity, we should just say that
it's fit for purpose.
Everything is perfectly as God intended to happen and will occur perfectly to His design. But everything which is not God is finite, limited, of short duration, subject to change
Yep.
by its external environment and itself changing external environment. And that's what we have to kind of be wary of. But